What's going on, beautiful people out there in the world? This is Evan. I hope y'all are doing all right today. And if not, that's okay too. You don't have to be doing well, all the time. Because even if you take care of yourself in the best way possible that you know you can, every day is not always going to be blissful. You can be as healthy as you want to be, or can be, which is incredible and so valiant in so many different ways, and so out of the norm of what is generally recognized as true health and vitality. Even if your physical vessel is very so-called healthy, which honestly most people's really isn't. And I don't claim to have the healthiest lifestyle, especially currently. But doing the best you can is certainly better than nothing. But that doesn't take away from the fact that people are still struggling regardless of that. And sometimes we just got to flesh things out. We got to talk about things. Not to say that those things are the end all be all. Words are very powerful. They hold a lot of meaning. They're very powerful compared to the thoughts themselves, actually. Thoughts are much less powerful than the words that we say. The words that we speak out into existence are approximately 10 times more powerful energetically than the mind itself is. So the words that we speak to ourselves are actually much more powerful than even the thoughts that convince us to speak those words, whether they are positive or negative. But all of it can be used for good, I believe, because it's all valid learning experience, and we are all going. I don't think that there is a single human being on this planet that isn't struggling to some degree or another, because we're all going through a very massive change collectively. And I don't care if people call me crazy, people call me this, people call me that. I really don't care. I invite all of that, all of that criticism, but nothing else. I only invite benevolent sources into this transmission that will help me to transmit information to anybody who's meant to hear this from somebody who is going through this, and using my courage, even though I am very fearful of being vulnerable, to transmit whatever is meant to be shared here. So, with all of that out of the way, cheers and skull, you guys. I said I was done drinking, and I'm not. Well, yesterday was my birthday, so I made an excuse to continue my drinking binge. So here we are. Because I'm going through a lot of shit, mostly mentally, emotionally, really. And a lot of times that's much more powerful than just going through something physically. Both of them kind of translate into each other, depending on where things come from. But I do want to talk about some things that I feel like are very useful and very important for people to hear. So, thank y'all for tuning in. I really appreciate all of you. So as a man living in this world, I've basically decided voluntarily to cut myself off from everybody and everything in my immediate surroundings, even family. Because I've found in the past that the more I associate with people in my surroundings while I'm going through this, I continually get gaslit into thinking that I'm doing something wrong, while I am going through something that makes me basically want to end my life. And people, I guess, have gotten to a point in their own lives where they feel so secure that they don't really have much of a cognition of how they make other people feel when they're in a certain position in life, as if they'd never gone through that themselves. It's like they forgot, you know? So instead of trying to talk to people that I truly love about these things, I'm putting my faith in that what I'm talking about here will reach the right people who it is meant to reach, who might feel a similar way. And I've already gotten some great responses from you guys who I know, and I put faith in that y'all are real ones. Y'all have been tuning in to some of Bo's live streams. I've seen and I've noticed Bo mentioning some of your guys' names in the live streams, and then some of you guys come into these videos and comment with real shit that's going on. And I want to say this too. One person's perspective is only one perspective. My perspective is only one perspective. Even if somebody seems like they're doing so much better than you, whoever they are, a certain perspective may not be exactly the way that you're supposed to go in this life. But it's not to say that you can't glean some insight from it and use it to apply it to your own life with where you're at right now. Because everybody's life is completely different. And the way that they execute their lives and the way that they were actually meant to come into this world to execute their life is completely different. Completely different. Not everybody is meant to live a certain kind of lifestyle. Not everybody is meant for that. And we're living in a time and an age where if enough people wake up fast enough, where there will be so many seemingly kind of like automatic downloads. Well, you will know exactly where to go at the certain time. There is no outline that somebody can give you in order to live the best life that you are come here to meant to live. I used to think this. Watching people living a certain kind of a lifestyle that I thought that would be the best thing for me. But I've come to the realization over years that sometimes a lot of that, from a personal standpoint, it came from a lot of fear of being in a certain situation and not being able to get out of it. Because if you're using fear to get out of a situation, it's never going to work out in your best interest or others. Because if you try to go, let's say this, if you try to go and live in a place where you've never lived before and the landscape is completely different, all of the, the biology of the place, and you're not even adapted biologically to a particular place enough, and you don't have a strong enough immune system to live there, you won't be able to live there because that place will overtake you. You're not strong enough to live there. Which is why I highly suggest you guys Do not take antibiotics. This is not health. This is not health recommendation. This entire video is completely satire and fictional. This entire video, everything that I am saying in this video is completely satire and fiction. So that's my disclaimer. But if you try to go to a place where your biology has not been fully attuned, or you don't have a strong enough immune system in order to combat many of the things that you would be exposed to in a particular environment, you're doing yourself and everybody else a great disservice. Unless you are one of those very rare individuals who is able to survive that. But you're good enough with where you're at right now. It's not to say that you should stay the same. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that not everybody is meant to live the life that somebody else is living. And actually, nobody is meant to live the life that you are living right now. We all forgot, willingly actually, why we came here. And that is the ticket. That's the ticket. That's the hidden golden ticket in the chocolate bar that we all forgot that we hid in that chocolate bar. It's not to say that one day all of a sudden you're going to open up a chocolate bar and be like, holy shit. It's more so, it's a metaphor. You'll only know when you really know. You know? You really only know when you know. It is ignorance to try to imitate somebody else's life and where they're at and what they're doing. Absolutely. Always. But you can glean insights and genuine true principles that somebody else is sharing if they're somebody. Very rarely this happens, but certain insights that can apply to everybody. Baseline spiritual truths that can be applied to anybody's life to make their lives much more prosperous and much more filled with spiritual fruit, let's say. It's not to say you got to go out there and like become a tree and make fruit on your legs and your hands and everything like that. Of course, everybody knows this, but what does it really mean to bear fruit? Well, how long does it take for a tree to grow and bear fruit? Generally, most fruit trees take years and years and years to actually bear any fruit that is edible and usable and that can grow another tree, right? So to think that you can do this very, very quickly is ignorance. You're ignoring the fact of the reality that trees themselves take many, many years, with the exception of a few different trees, of course, depending on their biology or whatever. But in a general sense, trees take a very long time in order to bear fruit. So to think that you're going to bear fruit overnight just because you listen to somebody talk about something is complete ignorance. And to ignore every other problem that you're going through in your life. It's complete ignorance. It's ignorance. Ignorance. You're ignoring completely something that is right in front of you, which is what, most of humanity does. And it's been trained into them. It's been trained into all of us. So there's nobody that's really not a victim of this. Not only are you the victim, you're also the villain, and you're also the hero. You're all of these things. You're not one or the other, or, if you think you're just one thing, you're separating yourself from the whole within yourself, even though you can never be separated from the source. And the source of all things is all-encompassing within all things. So read between the lines if you can. Think about this, like a tree that's already grown. Tree that's already grown, it's got nice thick roots. Big stump. What is the big part of the tree? I guess it's just the tree itself. Then you got all the leaves on it. What how do you make that tree grow more? This is kind of analogous to getting to the root of the problem or getting to the root of a potential solution to something. Do you water the leaves of the tree? Do you just pour water all over the trees and hope that that tree grows more? Or do you water it straight to the roots? Straight to the roots of that tree? Because guess what? The only way that tree is going to truly get water into the rest of the tree is if you water it to its roots. And water is consciousness. Water holds consciousness, I should say. Water holds consciousness. Water is the essence of life, just as air is the essence of life. And so when you're just watering those leaves that are already grown, you're doing nothing for the leaves. If anything, if the sun gets too bright and you get too much water on those leaves, the light refractions of the sunlight might actually burn those leaves and scorch the leaves of that plant so that it can't undergo photosynthesis in order to feed the rest of the tree from the light of the sun. So it's always about getting down to the root of the problem, which is for most people very difficult, and that's been made very difficult. It's been made very difficult, purposefully. And that's where all of the roots of everything that you're struggling with lies, is in the root of all of it. And at some point in your life, you experienced so much pain, so much trauma, so much struggle with a particular thing that you instinctively and very intelligently, actually, because of the level of pain that it caused you, you cut yourself off from it. Because if you would have dealt with that excessive amount of pain very quickly, it would have burned your roots out. So it's not a bad thing to initially avoid trauma, because children, if they experience an intense amount of trauma, they have to do that. It's a survival mechanism, and that's exactly what trees do. If you overwater the roots of a tree, or if they get too, watered out too quickly, any plant, if you overwater them, they can kill them. You can have too much of a good thing. Absolutely. And so sometimes that tree has got to grow up all the way up into a full-grown tree. And that tree can be very strong, very resilient in a lot of ways. But there are certain things about that tree that could grow in a lot of a better way. Like, say, pruning off certain branches that are unneeded, that would help the rest of the tree to grow. Certain branches of the tree grew off, and they're not useful to the rest of the tree, because if you were to prune off that particular branch of the tree, there would be more fruits on that tree that would actually grow if you were to get rid of that particular branch of the tree. So I'm speaking in metaphors here, and I think a lot of y'all can understand this. Certain people can understand this. I'm going to take a quick bathroom break, y'all. I'll be right back. All right. Thank y'all for being patient. I appreciate that, as always. So, yeah, don't think that you can just bear fruit overnight. I think that's a big trap that a lot of people can get stuck in, is thinking that you have to change the world overnight, and you can't. You can't even do it yourself. If you try to put the weight of the world on your shoulders, um, even for the strongest individuals out there, it's too much. It's just too much, man. It's just way too much. And I've seen and heard so many things in my life. So many things in my life. Things that I won't even repeat because I needed to see them at that time, but they were also, I want to say like deeply traumatizing, but they were also very revealing at the same time. And I don't regret any of it. Actually, it was all meant to be for me in particular. But for certain people out there, those things are not meant to be, really. Um, what is more so worthwhile is to focus on your own life and where you're at right now. And to love yourself with where you're at right now. Just like with me in my life right now, I'm loving myself completely and unconditionally through this entire experience of going back to drinking, even though I know it's not good for me. It's like, man, there are lifetime alcoholics, you guys. Like, there are lifetime alcoholics that have been drinking their entire lives. They haven't stopped for a day. Not a single fucking day. My heart goes out to those people because I cannot imagine the pain that those people feel if they go like a day or two without alcohol. I mean, that's life threatening, you guys. That's life threatening. It's insane. So, there is, I want to say this too, something that I truly believe in. I think that there is a difference between sympathy and compassion. I truly believe that. I think sympathy is bringing yourself down to a certain level to meet somebody where they're at. While that might sound good on the surface, it actually doesn't really help anybody. Compassion is holding space for somebody who is going through something very difficult, but not letting yourself go down to where they are at. But if you happen to be in that same situation, somewhat similar situation, I don't think that there is anything wrong with that. Or either, either one of those things. I don't think that there is anything wrong with that. Because what you don't bring out from yourself will destroy you. And if you do bring it out from yourself, it will save you. And I think that um, this can be expressed in that way, you know? Just in a similar way. And even when I'm making these videos, it's like, here's where I'm at, I'm not looking for sympathy. I really don't even know if I'm looking for compassion. But compassion will be better for that person who is expressing compassion versus sympathy. And there's a little bit of a fine line there. These are words, but words also have power. And the words that we speak into existence, the words that we speak to ourselves and to everything else or whoever else, they hold much more of an energetic frequency than our own thoughts do. So if you have thoughts in particular that, you all of a sudden start speaking on, you automatically make those thoughts much more powerful. Instead, you could say, when a particular thought comes into your head, you could either stew on it or just let it be there, or you could, say something like, I don't agree with that. And you just saying I don't agree with that is 10 times more powerful than the thought itself. And the more you do that, the less that thought will influence you. And all of these things that we're experiencing, we're basically allowing them whether we know it or not. It's all based on your level of awareness of what's happening. It's all based on your level of awareness of what's happening. So I've used my own free will choice to start drinking a bit again. I used the excuse yesterday because it was my birthday. I was like, hey, I'm gonna get a few pints of beers and just relax into my body. Try to relieve my nervous system of some tension. But I know that after this, once I quit all of this stuff, which I do plan on doing, it'll be right back there, right straight in front of me, raw and authentic again. But really, this whole experience is completely raw and authentic. And there's no judgment there, I know that there is no almighty creative source that is judging me for any of this stuff. Because God doesn't judge. Yeshua himself says that God does not judge you. All of you are the ones that are judging each other and yourselves. And you all are perpetuating what is happening. That's what Yeshua said. And there's never been a time where I have thought about or implemented what Yeshua said and it didn't work out in my best interest or anybody involved. It's not to say that it's easy. They're very simple, but it's not easy, of course, because we all have our own triggers. And sometimes if you have a nervous system that is so fucking wired to be a certain kind of a way, and you come across an experience where you feel like you're basically in life or death situation, even though it's really not, you either fight or you fly away. And I've always chose fly away because I don't want to hurt anybody. It's like I could have gone down the route of fight, but really fight versus flight. The fight part is actually way more of a reactional and very ignorant place to be versus flight. Because think about this, all of the herbivore animals, when they sense a predator in the area, and they sense that, they'll fight or they'll fly away if they're able to. But if they absolutely have to, if it's life or death, if something is about to fight them, they're going to fight the best that they can with what they have, of course, right? And really, carnivores are not natural. Carnivorous nature is not natural to this world. A lot of people think, oh, it's our ancestral lineage. We gotta hunt animals in order to survive. It's like, yes, there was a time in humanity's history where we fell so deeply into depravity at a collective level, which was in a lot of ways imposed on us. And the human body was created to be able to process flesh in the body if we absolutely needed to do it. But we live in an age now where we don't need that. There's a lot of agendas. Isn't this interesting? There's a lot of agendas against veganism, but there's also a lot of agendas against carnivorism or all meat diet, or a mostly meat diet, or a half and half, right? In my science fiction novel that I'm writing right now, I have been writing about a story where these certain powers that be are actually 3D printing slabs of meat that look like meat that people think is like a nice grass-fed piece of meat that is humanely raised and so-called humanely slaughtered when there is no such thing as humanely slaughtering any animal. And people are eating fake meat. And then there's also this other part of the story that I'm writing in this fictional novel that I'm writing, where all of the plant sources on this planet are being biogenetically engineered into being something that they never were, and are completely devoid of nutrients and completely devoid of all of these things that a human body really needs. Even though, in my conclusion in this particular novel that I'm writing, actually states that a vegetarian diet which doesn't involve any suffering of animals is much more attuned to what a human being is supposed to be and is directly correlated to longevity. And these people that have been eating meat, whether it was real, even the meat that was real in this particular scientific science fiction novel that I'm writing, actually accelerated the rate of aging. And these people that were only eating meat were actually damaging their brains over time because they were depriving their bodies of carbohydrates. Because the brain runs primarily on glucose. And so, even Vince Gironda knew in the 70s, without all of the social media and all this like different kind of like online research that we can do now, he knew that even if you were going to go down that route of going of like a more carnivorous route, eating more like plant or animal flesh, he knew that if you were to do that for long term, it would damage your body. So what did he recommend? He recommended every 4 days to eat a large carbohydrate filled meal to restore glycogen in your muscle cells, because your muscles require carbohydrates. The golden era bodybuilders knew about this. Not only did the golden era bodybuilders know about this, previous to that, oh man, this was just life. There was no question that you needed carbohydrates to be as strong as you possibly could be. I mean, I see the physique of like somebody like Mike Menser, and God bless that guy. I feel like he was a little bit similar to Vince Gironda in a way, although Vince Gironda never used synthetic steroids himself personally. He never used synthetic steroids. Go look at his physique, you guys. He was the most shredded motherfucking guy at that time. He was the best bodybuilder at his time. Hands fucking down. Period. Zero steroids. Then also Mike Menser. Mike Menser was an advocate for like 60%, 60 to 70% carbohydrates in your diet. And he was crazy jacked. Crazy jacked. Because they knew that that's what fed muscles. Carbohydrates. Healthy carbohydrates. And also digestive enzymes help with all of these different things too. Especially if you're eating a gigantic meal. That really our stomachs are not meant to eat like super, super gigantic meals. Because the stomach is only as big as it can be. It can expand. But that's why it's good to separate meals into, especially if you intermittent fast and you eat like a really, really big high protein meal and you've been working out like a motherfucker. That's really the only way that it's actually valid, as if you've been putting in the work to eat a giant meal like that. Lots of digestive enzymes. Lots of digestive enzymes really help with that in this particular scientific or science fiction novel that I'm writing. So yeah, this is all science fiction. There is actually no relevance to reality with what I'm talking about here, but this is just my take on it. So this kind of went went in a particular direction. I had no particular set direction of where I would make this video from, but I like talking about the book, that I'm writing right now. Whether or not I'll ever actually release it to the public, it's a pretty long story. It's been going on for many years, so I've been writing it in private. So there's been a lot of ups and downs with it, but just wanted to kind of explain some of the points that I'm writing about in there. But isn't it interesting if you look at what happened with Vince Gironda? Over the years, he ended up becoming a raging alcoholic because he was so disappointed with how many people didn't follow what he was teaching, and also Mike Menser. Mike Menser actually ended up being for lack of better terms, he became a complete bum. He started smoking cigarettes. He started drinking. He was found in a ditch outside of like Gold's Gym somewhere because he just became, I don't know if it was disappointment, or I think it was a lot of disappointment, honestly. And maybe it was a certain level of perfectionism that led him to that point, I'm sure. But I've seen plenty of people talk about Mike Menser and like how, man, he was like one of the fittest guys. He had like the one of the greatest physiques we had ever seen. And then later on, we find him in a ditch next to Gold's Gym, smoking cigarettes, and I mean, basically like passed out. He was drinking. He was drunk. So it's very real, and I can understand where that disappointment comes from. When you have when you have big high standards for yourself, and when you're trying to teach this to other people, and maybe they betrayed you in like a really bad negative way, and that's the like that's the only way I can really see that happening. And it's like, fuck, I could relate to that. That's why it's such a valiant, noble, beautiful, wonderful thing to be able to even participate in something like that in a world where most people will take advantage of you for it, mostly because they don't know any better. I bet you back then they probably did know better. They probably knew even better than now, because people now, they probably know less better than they did, 40, 50, 60 years ago, because of so much mind wiping and brainwashing of current social media, and how people are just so stuck on their phones all the time. And hey, I relate to that. I totally get that. I totally see where that comes from, because I come from experience speaking about that, so I can speak on it authentically and honestly. And it sucks. It really does. It's very soul depriving to be stuck on that all of the time. But to also know that you have a distinct calling in this world, whether or not you know exactly what it is. It's also not to say that you should feel bad about yourself for doing it, or to be a part of it. But you just got to know where your values lie. If you're going to take somebody's time away from them to supposedly say you're going to do something better, and then you don't do it, that's very painful for the other person, of course. But don't let that discourage you. In an unideal world today, sometimes when you pay a certain monetary cost for something that is completely priceless, you will tend to appreciate it much more than if you got it for free, or if you got it for, a particular kind of price that is very reduced, you know. And that's everybody's personal choice, by the way. Whatever price they make for any type of a service that they provide that they know is priceless and that it should be for free. In a non-ideal world, it should be for free. Or in an ideal world, it should be free. But we live in an unideal world where all of the people who don't deserve all of the money have all the money, but all of the healers in the world don't have any money. And they've been for thousands and thousands of years, most of them, over lifetimes and lifetimes, have been doing what they do for free. But then you got to look at the actual true practical reality of this is that what if all of the healers in the world had all the money? What if they had more money than what they were actually truly charging for? And those people who are willing to pay a certain amount of a monetary value for something that is so insurmountably valuable versus something that they could get from a system that is completely unvaluable in the long run. Think of what could be done in a world of healers who had all of the control over the money. People who had all of the right intentions. People who had all of these different things. Man, this particular novel that I'm writing, you guys, I'm really excited about releasing it. This is a fictional sci-fi novel that I'm writing that I'm really excited about releasing, actually. But just imagine, imagine that, These are just kind of all book ideas that I'm relaying to you guys. I'm wondering what y'all think about it, Because over the years of me seeing healers suffer for sharing information that could have changed the world, but weren't given enough resources in order to make as much of an impact as they could, which is obviously no fault to them. I mean, if you thought that it was their fault, I don't know who the fuck you are. It's actually one of the most valiant things to be able to just share things freely and not want to have anything given back to you. But then you think about giving and receiving. In a world like this that is so unideal, if you give something that is of insurmountable value and you charge a reasonable price for it for people who are able to afford it, in a world like this, people who are able to afford it and will actually see the practical value of it and know that they paid a certain amount of value for it, a certain amount of monetary value, or a certain amount of monetary, charge for it, or whatever. Charge, electricity, basically. I mean, you could look at money as electricity. When you get charged something, think about electricity. Being charged for this, being charged for that. It's like you're a battery, but what do you use your battery storage for, What are you putting your electric conductive energy towards, right? So I think that these are all really good things to consider, right? I think so anyway. Not to say that I do any of that currently, but maybe at one point in my life I can. Maybe sooner than later, we'll see. But it also requires truly embodying it, and currently right now I fell it back into really not embodying any of that, so I'm not going to claim to necessarily be a healer right now. Even though I know in my soul that I am, I really don't know what I have to offer. What do I really have to offer? that could be of any use for anybody. And really, that's why I'm making these videos, is I'm just putting my faith in the fact that whatever's being shared and transmitted here is and can be useful for somebody somewhere. And even if it's just that one person that it lights a spark in, that's all that matters. Because it's better to have one spark lit rather than to have none and to have no light in that room whatsoever. Because that one spark from that match can light a candle, and then you can use that candle to light other candles. And then that entire room can be filled with light. Even more than it really needs, and then you can take those candles out of that other room and light all the other rooms in that house. And then you can start sharing them with your neighbors. You know, it's like, I got so many candles in here. I don't know what the fuck. They're melting all over the place. Man, you know, do you want some candles? We got so many in here. They're lit up all over the place. We got way too much light in here for this particular space. In order, the light is outgrowing this space. So let's share this light with our neighbors. And if your neighbor doesn't want that candle, it's like, that's okay. You know, use this candle for somebody else. Try to give it to somebody else. You know, doesn't have to be literal, obviously, but you know, you can see what I'm saying, I'm sure. With wherever you are at in your life, remember this: you are worth your life. Your life is worth being here in this world right now. As difficult and as all of these things that we know life is, because like I said in the beginning of this video, there is no human being right now that is not suffering with something, whether they know it or not. And some people are just choosing to use their pain as some sort of like a weapon towards somebody else, right? Because it's very painful. Very painful, of course. When you hold on to all that pain all the time, man, that sucks. It hurts bad. It eats holes in you, literally. When you hold on to so much pain. And I've experienced this myself in my fictional sci-fi novel that I'm writing. It's a very interesting book, I think. Might sound a little egotistical, but I'm excited. I'm excited about writing it, you know? And I'm writing it every day. Every day I wake up, I start to write, you know? Whether or not that particular day is very mundane, there's not much going on, or, you know, there's a long stretch of not really doing much, but knowing that maybe that's the best thing for me right now, is to really not do a whole lot. A lot of times, those particular times in our lives are the times when we really get to meet who we really are. Those parts of us that were abused as a young child, whether we remember those parts of us or not. It's like, who cares what other people think about you? Of course, other people's positive feedback is always wonderful. But I don't care what people think about me in a negative sense, even if they're very close to me. And in a lot of ways, I understand why. I understand why they feel that way about me. And I send that love, and I hold space for it. I hold compassion for it. I have compassion for it. Because I have compassion for myself and what I'm dealing with. And those other people might not have that for themselves. And they might have trained themselves to believe that life is a certain way and you got to be this way. And if you don't be this way, then you're going to be ostracized. And, you know, we just don't want to have anything to do with you. And, you know, hey, that's fine. That means you're meant for some other place somewhere. It really does. The more you put up with that type of mental abuse, or it could be physical abuse, depending on who you are. The more you put up with that, the more it persists. The stronger it gets. You know, it gets. You know what I'm saying? So just, if I were to say anything, remember that there is intrinsic value to your life. There is intrinsic value to your life. You were not born a sinner. You were not born a lowly sinner that can't do anything about their own lives, because really, if I at this point believed in a God that let children into this world that were always destined to fail from birth, I couldn't believe in that God at this point. I just couldn't. I couldn't believe in that God. I used to try to, but then my life became mental hell, and then therefore became physical hell. It's not to say that life will get automatically easier if you try to change your beliefs, but a lot of times it will get more difficult before it gets better, just like the collective situation that's happening in humanity right now. But if enough people wake up quick enough and start to reactivate what is truly dormant within them, their 12-stranded DNA, not base 10, like what a lot of New Age believes about. They may even not, a lot of the New Agers might not even realize that it's base 10, all of these different symbols and all of these different things that they believe in. But true, actual, if you look at a crystalline structure that has been like frozen water that you say I love you to over and over again and you freeze it, those symbols are base 12. Base 12, not base 10. And that's what most of spirituality has been based off of, is base 10. Like the Fibonacci sequence. The Fibonacci sequence is actually a false light code. As much as people like to praise and worship the Fibonacci code, and even Tool writes their songs in the Fibonacci code. And I like the fact that they make their music in 432 hertz, but at the same time, the Fibonacci sequence consumes the previous number in order to create the next number. And it eventually creates a black hole once it goes far enough. Because eventually there's not enough to consume because it's consuming the previous number before it. So think about this. I think that's why a lot of people who get into the spiritual New Age community, they feel like there's something a little bit wrong there. It's because there's something in your DNA that's activated enough to realize that there is just something wrong that's going on here. All these different symbols, the Metatron symbol, and all these different things. Like the true flower of life symbol is a base 12. But what is very popular in the New Age space is base 10 symbols, which consume energy to create energy, which is the absolute 100% exact code of numbers and frequencies, is what the matrix that is siphoning our life force energy from, that people have been tricked into giving their energy over to. And it's only as powerful as the energy that you give it. But a base 12 symbol, flower of life, base 12 flower of life symbol, does not consume energy to create energy. It's free energy. It is the supplier of energy, and it constantly creates its own energy. And these are the types of symbols that you will see. If you freeze water in a true love frequency. And this has been proven many times over. But people just don't want to see it because they love their new age. Love and light. Love and light is great. Love is wonderful. Light is life. But when you're filtering that through a base 10 system of symbols that everybody is so addicted to, like these false spin Merkaba symbols and systems and everything like that, Merkaba systems or symbols, it's consuming energy to create energy. So you're consuming it from somewhere. And more likely than not, when you're unaware, it's consuming energy from you, whether you know it or not. So it's actually aging you faster. That's just my theory in the book that I'm writing, actually. So I'm willing to be wrong. But I'm a full-hearted believer in that, fictionally speaking, that Tesla discovered the secrets of the universe. 3, 6, and 9. The only number that was left out was 12. That was the finishing, all-encompassing number that I feel like was taken out. And I have a full-hearted belief in that it was taken out of those particular research papers that were confiscated fictionally. Not only do you have 3, 6, 9, 12, you also have 15. You know, and it continuously goes up from there. And those numbers do not consume each other, like the Fibonacci sequence does. The Fibonacci sequence has to consume the previous number in order to create the next number. And that spiral is a black hole. Fictionally speaking. So that's my video for today, you guys. Just want to make this video, let y'all know about the book I'm writing about. Really cool book, I think. I think it'll be very fitting for the sci-fi lovers, sci-fi fiction novelists out there. So until next time, you guys, very much love. And as always, shred onwards and so forth, warriors.